Nafise, what are the latest reports you're managing to get from inside Iran?
Rebecca, we spent yesterday on the border, one of the major border between Iraqi Kurdistan with Iran, where we witnessed many people were crossing. It looked normal, but the stories that we heard wasn't normal. It was very heartbreaking, the stories that we heard from people. Some people were going to the border to just get network because Iran's mobile network works at the border area, and some of the border guards, Kurdish border guards from this side of the border had these SIM cards, so they were going to use these guards' mobile SIM card to call their family inside. And I heard some of these conversation with their family. Family were terrified to talk on the phone, but they were saying that everything in some cities. They said that the atmosphere in the past few days was like a war zone. This is exactly how they describe the situation. And also, I witnessed a talk between two friends talking about burial of their friend that has been shot dead by security forces, as they said, inside Iran. And other people that were crossing to Iraqi Kurdistan, we talked to a family from Isfahan, which is one of the most populated cities in Iran, in central Iran, until at least Sunday. Said they had massive protests in their cities, but then because of the brutal crackdown, people started to ask their children, this is what they told us, people there asked their children not to go out because one of them was a doctor. She said, I won't exaggerate if I say that every family and neighbor that we know, they had someone either injured or killed in their relatives or in their loved ones. And what I understood, that it is not only us that we cannot get access. People in this different cities, they cannot get in touch with each other, so they have no clue what is happening in the other cities.
Nafise, for the moment, thank you so much. That's the BBC's Nafise Konavad there in Iraqi Kurdistan.
That's what a brutal crackdown will.
Let's head to Uganda next, because colleagues of the main opposition candidate in Thursday's presidential elections, Bobby Wine, says he's been forcibly removed from his house and taken away in a military helicopter. They say they don't know where he is now. Bobby Wine was already under house arrest and had been urging Ugandans not to accept the official election results, which actually haven't been released yet, but which are expected to declare Yoweri Museveni president again for the 7th time. But let's see what we can find out, because we can cross live to the BBC's Sammy Awami, who's in the Ugandan capital, Kampala. Sammy, it's been difficult to get through to you because the internet has been shut down in recent days, but what can you tell us about this news that Bobby Wine's been taken away?
What the hell?
Yes, last night I managed to speak to the spokesperson of Bobby Wine's party, the Unity Party, and he told me, when I called him, he said just about an hour before he had spoken to the wife of Bobby Wine, who had called him to let him know that she saw individuals she believed to be military men who scaled up their wall, enter their compound, and then broke their door and forcibly removed Bobby Wine from their house.
Where would they get a night like that?
Told me the wife sounded vividly shaken because obviously of how the force and all the way they removed Bobby Wine from their house. My colleague spoke to the spokesperson of the police here in Uganda, and he told him last night that he was not aware of Bobby Wine's incident, and that he confirmed to have police officers around his house, but he said they were not putting him under house arrest. Instead, they were just providing him with security. Now, it's very difficult to independently verify all these details because, like you said, internet has been shut down here, and in some cases, even regular calls are just impossible to make.
And Sammy, I mean, there has been some unrest since those elections on Thursday. Several people are thought to have been killed. There's been arrests as well and clashes between opposition supporters and security forces. Do we know any more on that and these allegations of widespread fraud in the elections?
We've had those reports, incidences of clashes between police and supporters of the opposition. One particular case came from central Uganda, where an opposition politician, the opposition lawmaker there said police officers had killed 10 people in his house. But police from that area, again, denied those allegations. They said they were responding to a different incident where police said the group of people were attempting to attack a tally center, and so they denied to have killed those people inside the house of that lawmaker. Again, we have these sporadic reports from across the country, but it's difficult to prove because in different circumstances, when you have internet, at least people would have uploaded videos or photos of these things, but now it's just very difficult to independently verify.
And very briefly, everybody's expecting that Yoweri Museveni will be announced president again. It would be for his 7th time.
Yes, according to the latest results announced, which was last night around 10 p.m. local time here, he was leading with 72% of the vote counted. Now, the chairperson of the Electoral Commission believes they will be able to announce the overall winner by 5 p.m. local time here. And you're right, many people here widely believe that Museveni will be declared winner, especially with this gap now he's leading with.
All right, good to speak to you. Thank you so much. That's the BBC's East Africa reporter Sammy Owami there live in Uganda's capital, Kampala. BBC. Next, 2 developments in US-Venezuelan relations and 2 key meetings on the same day this week. In the White House, the Nobel Prize-winning Venezuelan opposition leader Maria Corina Machado, who met President Trump,
gave Trump her
handed
medal.
him her Nobel medal, framed with a note thanking him for his actions in her country. Meanwhile, in Caracas, the newly appointed interim president, Delcy Rodriguez, was meeting the director of the CIA, John Ratcliffe. Ms. Rodriguez came to power just 2 weeks ago after the U.S. military forcibly seized the then President Nicolas Maduro, taking him to New York to face various weapons and drugs charges. But this is how her political rival, Maria Corina Machado, described Delcy Rodriguez on Friday.
Delcy Rodriguez, yes, she's a communist. She's the main ally and representation of the Russian regime, the Chinese and Iranians. But that's not the Venezuelan people, and that's not the armed forces.
Hi, Krista.
Well. So I am profoundly confident that we will have an orderly transition. This is a complex phase we are right now. Some of the dirty work is being done by them. But then the result of a stable transition will be a proud Venezuela who's going to be the best ally the United States has ever had in the Americas.
That's so sweet.
There. So 2 meetings, the opposition leader with Mr. Trump, the new interim president with the CIA boss. Which was the most important? I've been speaking to Andres Silva, political analyst in Caracas.
Oh, definitely the Delcy Rodriguez meeting in Caracas was more important because this is a meeting that has happened because of the United States' interest in turning Venezuela into a powerful commercial ally. It clearly signifies a big difference between what the Maduro administration was doing with their treatment towards the U.S. with how Delcy Rodriguez is acting towards the country.
Yeah, because, I mean, there are questions as to the legitimacy of Delcy Rodriguez taking the interim presidency, because, of course, she was part of the regime that Washington was trying to overthrow.
Delcy Rodriguez.
We hear that John Ratcliffe was looking to improve a working relationship with her. How would he have been trying to do that?
The person that summed it up best was Marco Rubio during the January 3 press conference, which is when they questioned the legitimacy of Delcy Rodriguez as a successor. He talked about how, yes, of course, there are important legitimacy issues, but at this point in time, where the most important aspect isn't only having Maduro out of office, but leading Venezuela towards political, economic, and social change, what works isn't what legitimate, but what is working, what is efficient. And at this moment, seeing as how the Maduro government had total and absolute control of every institution, every organ of power in Venezuela, there is no governability possible for an immediate democratic transition.
Political analyst Andres Silva there. Now, how can training a bird of prey help a young woman navigate the grief of losing her father? It might not be a question anyone asked until Helen MacDonald published her memoir, H is for Hawk, back in 2014. The book was showered with literary prizes and praise from readers too, and now the story is hitting the big screen. Here's a moment from the new film where Helen, played by Claire Foy, first trains the goshawk called Mabel, helped by her falconer friend Stuart.
It's 11:11 with 11 people in the chat.
Present the check.
Make a wish.
Yeah?
You're not far. That's perfect.
Mabel. Mabel.
So,
Come on, babes.
Well, she's distracted, aren't you?
this is great and everything, but
just present a little more of the chick.
what was the question?
There, she sees it.
Mabel, come on.
Here you go. What's that there? Give her a moment. She's coming.
Oh, Stu, come on, Mabel. Come on.
There you go. Get that chick off her.
Amazing. Well done, babes. Well done.
Bring her back. We'll go further.
A clip from the film there. Well, my colleague James Menendez has been speaking to Helen MacDonald and the film's director, Philippa Lawthorpe. He began by asking Philippa about the challenges of filming with a live bird of prey.
Luckily, we started planning how on earth we would film Helen's beautiful memoir.
Okay, let's shut down the live, shouldn't we?
Before, with a fantastic
Of course he did. He's a stupid ass Nazi.
Lloyd Butt. He had trained 2 of his hawks to fly with little tiny drones. And those hawks became our stunt hawks. Those hawks were our action stunt guys.
Because there's an extraordinary scene where we follow one of those hawks hunting, and there's an amazing tracking shot through the forest as this hawk flies low hunting a rabbit. That wasn't CGI, was it?
There's no CGI. The only little bit of CGI in that is the rabbit. But what I wanted to do with those sequences as well is make them feel very real and visceral and as if you were flying with the hawk. Because Helen wrote this brilliant line in her memoir that you wanted to fly with the hawk.
Fly with the hawk and find my father
and bring him home. And that really stayed with me. And I wanted the audience to feel like they're with the hawk flying, that they're not observing it, but they're literally with that hawk, and the excitement and the sheer joy of flying and hunting we wanted to capture in those scenes. But of course, Claire had to learn how to be a falconer in order to do that.
How did she do, Helen? Because I think at one point, goshawks are described as murderous psychopaths. So there's danger involved. I mean, but she looked comfortable.
She was incredible, yeah. I mean, murderous psychopaths is very much a human appellation, but they are the most highly strung and most nervous and heavily armed of British birds of prey, and legendary in falconry as being very difficult. So it's a bit like learning to drive for Claire, learning to drive with a McLaren or learning to fly an aeroplane and being given an F-16. I mean, it's not a beginner's bird. She had a little bit of tuition with Lloyd, and she turns out to be one of the most accomplished and intuitive natural falconers I've ever come across. But I mean, thinking about how, as an actor, you're very alive to the most tiny non-verbal cues and the ways in which things can be communicated without words, which of course is exactly the skill of falconry, is to read a hawk.
Well, some of her reactions look
What are you
natural.
confused about?
I mean, there's moments when she's starting to get to know Mabel, the hawk. She's acting, but it looks kind of real. I'm guessing it probably wasn't.
It's a combination of the two. She said an extraordinary thing. We were talking about this, and she said that when you're at drama school, one of the things you're taught is that you cannot compete on stage with a lighted match. If there's a lighted match on stage, no one's going to be looking at you, they'll be looking at the match. And the hawk is a lighted match.
For a sort of wide audience, Philippa, I mean, in many ways, the subject matter, it's difficult subject matter. It's about grief, it's about death, but also there's not the sort of Hollywood redemption, because the hawk doesn't totally save Helen. And we see that in very raw terms, how grief starts to intrude. I mean, what did you want to convey?
I think that the journey of losing somebody dear to you in such a sudden and shocking way, and then going on that journey into a kind of underworld, rejecting your friends, rejecting your family, and then emerging. I think that the film has redemption in it. Helen, in the end, recognizes where she's got to when she climbs out of that box and saves herself. She's gone there via Mabel, but in the end, it's a film about love and about hope. Throughout the film, there's this beautiful friendship between Helen and Christina. There's an awful lot of humor in the film as well.
It's very, very funny.
And a lot
when I first saw the
hell
cut, I laughed so much. There's an incredible, sorry, I'm butting in. There's an incredible scene where me, my mum, and my brother go to the undertakers and are presented with a series of novelty coffins.
That's right, because they say, oh yes, Dad liked planes.
Yeah, do you want a Spitfire coffin? We can do a Spitfire coffin, or we can do like an astronomy coffin, you know. And this really happened, and it really was funny. And I think that when you're grieving, it's not just univocal grief. It's all kinds of emotions. And I think your film really tracks that beautifully.
Helen MacDonald then. We also heard from the film's director, Philippa Lawthorpe. They were both speaking to James Menendez there. That latest film, H is for Hawk, out now. Do stay with us. Lots more to come on Weekend.
All right, well, we're not going to stay with you. We're going to go inside. No more to come.
Distribution of the BBC World Service in the U.S. is made possible by American Public Media. APM produces and distributes award-winning public radio programs that inform,
how would you listen to the news
APM
if I wasn't
is proud
streaming
to connect audiences to the world with accurate, impartial, international news and global perspectives from the BBC World Service.
If you have a car you're ready
First time on the internet.
Have you thought about donating it to Colorado Public Radio? Car donations from listeners like you are a really important part of CPR's funding, and it's easy to do. Just fill out a form, schedule a pickup, and supply the title. Soon, your car will be on its way to help fund the
Dr. Balls.
fact-based news reporting it count out. Get started
It's
at
nice of you to subscribe. Comment on my content.
CPR.org/support.
You might like it.
And thanks.
You might love my content.
Still to come,
It might save your
President
life.
Trump doubles down on his plan to own Greenland. We speak to the Foreign and Defence Minister of neighbouring Iceland. Is she worried her country is next on Trump's list? Also, the row over Gaza at a book fair in Australia. And we'll be meeting our panel guests with us for the rest of the programme. It's all coming up here on Weekend.
Thanks for letting us know. Thanks for the heads up.
BBC News with
Woo, here we go. BBC
Donald
News.
Trump has named the members of the body that will oversee the second phase of the Gaza peace plan. They include the president's son-in-law, Jared Kushner, and Britain's former Prime Minister, Tony Blair. The Board of Peace, as Mr. Trump calls it, is expected to oversee the running of Gaza temporarily.
What the hell?
The Ugandan army has denied abducting the opposition leader, Bobi Wine, after he complained of fraud in Thursday's election. A spokesman told the AFP news agency rumours of his arrest were baseless. Bobi Wine's son said the military had seized his father and wouldn't allow anyone into his home. A major scientific review has found no link between taking paracetamol during pregnancy and rising cases of autism in young children. Last September, President Trump said women should tough it out rather than take the painkiller, which he claimed was associated with a very increased risk of autism. A U.S. judge has restricted the tactics used by federal immigration agents in Minneapolis against protesters. The judge banned officers from detaining or tear-gassing peaceful demonstrators or stopping their cars without reasonable suspicion.
Stupid bootlickers, but who's going to stop them?
Against the thousands of federal agents who've been searching Minneapolis for illegal immigrants.
Who's going to enforce the judge's order?
Forces in Syria say they will pull back to east of the Euphrates River after holding talks
east of
with
the
American
Euphrates,
officials. The government had been threatening a new offensive against Kurdish fighters. Ecuador has sent thousands of troops to 3 coastal provinces to fight drug trafficking gangs. Criminal groups have been blamed for soaring murder rates. Several people have been arrested outside the Iranian embassy in London during a protest against Iran's government. British police say some officers were injured by objects thrown at them. And the mayor of the Japanese city of Yokohama has apologized for insulting his colleagues. Takeharu Yamanaka had called them names such as human scum and useless sack of dust. He said he would show more self-control in future. That's the latest BBC News.
You're listening to
Okay.
Weekend Live
That was probably
from
good
the
enough.
BBC World Service with me, Rebecca Kesby.
Sorry.
And it's time to
Bye-bye.
meet our guests with us for the whole
Go away.
program today. Dimitar Bechev is a Bulgarian-born academic.
Carissa, you can
He's
stay.
the director of the
I'll talk to you
Darendorf
later.
program at the
I'll shut it
European
down.
Studies Centre, St Anthony's College at the University of Oxford. And in fact, Dimitar joins us from our studio in Oxford. Can you hear us okay, Dimitar?
Yes, thanks for the reaction.
Very good to have you with us. And here in the studio with
Reactions
me,
help bring in better
Bakunina,
people.
who's a Russian-born author and specialist in investment, and she's in the studio. Yana, this is your first time on Weekend, I think.
It is. Good morning.
Good morning.
No, I said you can
Well,
stay.
it's our
So
pleasure.
everybody else can
Now,
go
I
away.
think we should take a moment to just sort of have a chat about your
Yeah, we're gonna turn it off
trajectory
anyway.
and your career, and what brings you to the UK, for one thing.
Well, so
It's
I grew
cold
up
out
in
here.
Yekaterinburg, which is the third largest city in Russia, about 2 hours flight from Moscow to the east, or 20
Never heard of it.
hours on a fast train. So I came to Britain to study economics and management at Oxford. And then I started my career in the city and then media before I turned to writing. And yes, currently I work for social finance, basically specializing in impact investing.
Mm-hmm. And so you've been here 20 years, so I mean, a lot has changed both here and in Russia in that time.
Oh, talk about
have
Russia
a
for a
claim to
second,
make,
sure.
Which is I have never lived in Russia governed by Putin. So I left Russia in
Oh, well
1999. And yes, indeed, that's actually is the subject of most of my books is what has changed and how people I have grown up with who were very much applauding the turn to the West, the openness that perestroika brought us, and glasnost, of course, to
glasnost.
The complete reversal of that in Russia today.
And we'll be drawing on your conclusions and analysis on all of that over the next couple of hours.
She didn't say what the people...
Welcome back to the programme. Tell us
What
a little
happened to the
bit
people?
about your background, if you would.
Okay.
Yeah, I was actually almost born in Moscow, so it's wonderful to be talking about that part of the world here on the program, even if subjects are a bit gloomy.
You almost
so
born
I've
in
been
Moscow.
here for the past 5 years, but I'm returnee because I lived in the UK in the 2000s, doing my doctorate at Oxford and then being a postdoctoral student. And then I had a career in various think tanks, went back to Bulgaria after a stint in Tokyo, Japan, 5 years in the US during the first Trump administration in Boston, but also in North Carolina. And then now I'm back here doing research on Russia, on European Union and world affairs, and also on Eastern Europe, broadly defined. I've also worked on Turkey. That's another country I follow very closely.
Yeah, well, we're delighted to have you both very well travelled. Is it true, Yana, you've been to 116 countries? I'm just reading that here.
That is true. And you know, the sad part of it is that I have been to some countries currently in dire straits, such as Venezuela, and I keep thinking about what a beautiful country that is, with so much to see and amazing people too.
Hopefully we'll be coming to that at some point in the programme today. There's a lot to discuss, so we should get on with it.
Okay.
Dimitar and Yana with us for the whole programme.
Everything's
Let's turn to Greenland now, because that's been dominating the agenda this week. To be specific, President Trump
wants
stated
to invade
aim
it.
to own it. Now Mr. Trump says he's considering putting a new tariff on countries that oppose a US takeover. Just as Mr. Trump was making these comments, a bipartisan congressional delegation of 11 US lawmakers, including Republicans, was visiting Denmark to show their support in the face of increasing US
Why don't you just
pressure.
yank Trump?
It comes following that meeting in the White House earlier this week, after which the Danish Foreign Affairs Minister, Lars Løkke Rasmussen, told reporters that there were fundamental differences between the two countries over Greenland.
And here our perspectives continue to differ, I must say. The president has made his view clear, and we have a different position.
Well, one country watching the situation very closely is Iceland. It sits just 500 kilometers from Greenland in the North Atlantic. Its population is only about 400,000 people, and although it's a founding member of NATO, it doesn't actually have an army of its own. This week, the man who is Donald Trump's pick to be the next US ambassador to the country, former Republican Representative Billy Long, joked to members of Congress that Iceland could become the United States' 52nd state after Greenland, with him as the governor. Well, I've been speaking to Iceland's Foreign Minister, Katrín Gunnarsdóttir, who is also the Defence Minister, and she told me what she made of Billy Long's comments.
To be quite clear, if it was a joke, then it was a really bad joke. And you don't make fun of countries' sovereignties, territorial integrities, etc. And we have had some conversation with our counterparts in the embassy of the US, and we will keep that there for the next upcoming days. But this really did sadden me, because we have, both Iceland and US, we have had actually really good relationship during decades, and this was not underlining this good relationship we have with the US.
Well, it would be understandable that many people in Iceland do feel rather nervous, given the threat, basically, of US forces to take over Greenland. I mean, as a close neighbour of Greenland, how is Iceland viewing that situation?
I should say from the outset that we are, of course, very and deeply disappointed with how this affair has come about. Actually, we believe very strongly in respect for international law and sovereignty and the sanctity of borders and in the self-determination of nations. And all these principles are, on our behalf, very clear. So it's only for the people of Greenland to decide what their place is in the world, and the connection to Denmark should not be doubted as long as it is the will of the Greenlandic people to keep it.
So Iceland, of course, is a founding member of NATO. It doesn't have a standing army, though, and so must be feeling all the more vulnerable at the moment. I mean, President Trump has made no secret of his ambitions to dominate the Western Hemisphere, as he puts it. And I don't know whether you think that Iceland would be part of that Western Hemisphere. I mean, Iceland did have an opportunity to join the EU, or was in the process of a bid to join the EU. At the moment, Iceland is not a member of the EU. Would that have given you any more protection, do you think? Or how vulnerable do you feel as a country now in the middle of the North Atlantic?
The broader our collaboration internationally is, the bigger is our security and strength. And just also to underline, Iceland, we are an independent state. We are a republic since 1944. We are a member of the United Nations from 1945. And as you said so correctly, we are a founding member of NATO. But of course we are following all this situation in Greenland, and this peculiar desire of the US president gaining Greenland. So, of course, there are speculations in Iceland, and in the broader context, broader strategic context, Russia, we cannot forget it. Russia continues still to be the greatest security threat in the short term and medium term. We are worried about the increase in hybrid activities in Europe, including sabotage against critical infrastructure, disinformation and cyber attacks, and there the European Union is pretty strong. So I want to see us deeper in collaboration with the EU, and I'm not shy. I'm the leader of the party in Iceland that is very much pro-NATO. It's very much pro-EU, and I think it would be very beneficial for Iceland, be it on economic security, but also when it comes to defense and security in general.
Just to be clear then, if Russia is the main threat facing Iceland at the moment, would you feel better protected in the Western Hemisphere under President Trump or with the Europeans?
I want to see NATO. That is absolutely clear. And I don't want to look at the picture Europe or the US. But on the other hand, we have to strengthen and broaden our collaboration. We are looking to Canada. We are, of course, looking to our good allies in the Nordics, and also to the UK, and among others, the European Union. We are strengthening our policy, legal and institutional framework. I'm putting forward a comprehensive security and defense policy. We are strengthening our ties with, for example, through bilateral statements and agreements with Germany, with Finland. We are heading to the UK as well. We have started working on resilience and protection of critical infrastructure as well. We have been taking steps to have better and more robust cyber defense within Iceland. So this work is, Rebecca, is ongoing and will of course never be finished. What we can do during all this concerning noise, we have to stay focused on our principles, say it out loud that we support both the Kingdom of Denmark and Greenland. And I hope that reason will prevail and we will have a peaceful closure that contains and underlines also the sovereignty of Greenland, respect for international law and rules-based order. And if not, if the red lines emphasized now by Greenland and Denmark are not respected, then I assume the alliance NATO will be put under very much constraint. And
that'll help
who
Putin.
will be smirking on the sideline? Of course, Putin and maybe China as well.
Katrín Gunnarsdóttir there, Iceland's foreign minister and defence minister. Listening to that, our panel guest today, Dimitar Bechev and Jana Bakunina. Jana, let's go to you first in those comments that the minister made there, that who will be smirking Mr. Putin. How do you think the Kremlin will be viewing all these tensions within NATO at the moment?
Well, I agree. I think that
checked off their
the
to-do
Kremlin
list.
would be smirking right now because anything that is destabilizing NATO is, of course, playing very well into Kremlin's hands. So officially, Russia and China said to the US, do not use us to pursue your own interests. But of course, we know that Russia has been carrying out military training in the Arctic. That's part of their defense program. Which is ongoing, but I think that ultimately it is, it's very difficult to believe that for Trump the main attractiveness in Greenland is in fact defense and national security.
No, it's just
Dimitar,
helping Putin.
what do you make of it? I mean,
Just a way to help
this week,
Putin.
various European politicians have been coming out suggesting possible actions if the US did try to take Greenland by force, including suggestions to kick out US military from bases in Europe.
Oh, that's a good
What are
one.
the options for European NATO
Or
countries?
just arrest them, hold
I
them
think what
hostage,
they're
take them
trying
prisoners
to
of
do is
war.
to increase the cost of a possible unilateral action by Trump in various ways. Obviously, the tripwire force deployed there has a symbolic meaning, but also sends a signal to politicians within the US, because we know that in Congress and also in the Senate specifically, there is no majority in favor of military action, let alone any other aggressive moves. But also public opinion in the US is not favorably disposed to such a land grab.
Nope.
Because there's a very strong argument, including by conservative pundits, because that the US already gets most of Greenland with military deployments, rights to explore for critical materials, so on and so forth.
You already got everything you could be
Also,
trying to
there's a temporal
get.
aspect. The US is facing midterm elections, so Trump is in a very strong position now, 1 year into his presidency. But that might not be the case.
A strong
in
position?
a year's time from now, especially.
I don't know if you've heard anything about America.
That's a good point. Yeah, Jana, I mean, you were speaking about the Russian military maneuvers in the Arctic. Mr. Trump says Greenland is under-defended. I mean, he is right about that, isn't he?
Well, I think that
What's to defend?
I mean, being sort of, I don't want to be a spokesman for the Kremlin, but if I was, I would say that, well, who's going to attack Greenland? Russia isn't interested, and I think that's probably true. So, and as for people in
Just a way to
Russia,
destroy NATO.
if we're talking about ordinary people, well, they're just laughing at Trump. So I think maybe people
Everybody's
of Russia
laughing
are
at
the
Trump.
only people who have never taken Trump seriously, and it's just
Because they
another
know they own him.
eccentricity to make memes out of.
Yeah, I mean, I
Putin owns
suppose
him.
from the Russian point of view, Dimitar, Greenland has been protected all this time because of NATO.
Oh, look at Russia. It's struggling after a year to take over the entirety of Pokrovsk. And we're not talking the Donbass, we're talking about a tiny part of this Ukrainian region. And Greenland is far, far away. We shouldn't be making Russia bigger than it actually is. Of course, it's been stirring trouble there with asymmetric tactics, cutting cables, also disinformation. But the scenario where actually Russia deploys in seizes seems far-fetched to me. Having said that, if you look more broadly at the region, the north, you see how strategically important it is. Russia has been building up its military presence in parts of the Arctic it actually owns. Because of climate change, shipping lanes through the north have become very important, including for China. For the Russian extractive industry, those parts of the Russian Federations are becoming critically important, but they don't have the technology to explore. So there are many aspects to this story, I think.
Very briefly, Jana, I guess one of the things that it is doing is sort of forcing Western European countries into tighter alliances and friendships.
I think that's right. And also commenting on what Dimitar just
rally
said
all
about
Americans
the
to side with Europe and
economic
America against Trump and
I think I agree with that 100% because these new routes are opening because of the climate change. And so
also we need to stop the climate change.
In a way,
Fuck those
I think
routes.
it is great that the European powers are now united, unlike their response to the annexation of Crimea.
We're going to be coming back to this
let's
story
not come back. Let's let
in
it
the
go.
next hour. We're going to be speaking to
All right,
a former chief of NATO and also somebody who's just written a fascinating